Screams echoed across the skies of Vega Prime as flames swallowed entire cities. The sky, once filled with bright moons and soft blue clouds, now turned black. Huge enemy warships hung above like shadows from a nightmare. Buildings melted. Defense towers collapsed. The people of Vega, proud and peaceful for generations, had never faced anything like this. Panic spread faster than fire. Mothers held their children tightly. Soldiers fired hopelessly at the sky. Everyone looked up, waiting for something, anything, that could stop the storm raining down on them. The attackers had no name, no warning, no face, just destruction. Their ships were massive, silent, and dark. They didn't answer hails. They didn't speak. They only destroyed. Within the first hour, half of Vega Prime's capital was gone. The planetary shield had failed minutes into the attack, not because it was weak, but because the enemy had tech beyond anything the Alliance had ever seen. Inside the Grand Council building, panic reigned. The holographic table showed red dots spreading across the map like blood. Counselors shouted at each other, some demanding evacuation, others calling for surrender. But no one really believed survival was possible. The communications officer tried to send messages to nearby planets, but all channels were blocked or jammed. It was hopeless. Then someone whispered almost too quietly to hear, "Send a message to Earth." The room fell silent. Earth, the forgotten world. The humans had left the Council years ago. They had warned the Alliance about something coming, something dangerous, something worse than war. The Council had laughed at them, called them paranoid. Since then, Earth had cut off almost all contact. The humans had built walls around their systems, kept their technology secret, and stayed silent. But now, with Vega Prime burning, they were the last hope. The Council's high speaker stood up slowly. Her eyes were full of fear, but her voice was steady. "Send the signal," she said. In the final moments before the main communications tower exploded, a single message escaped through a hidden quantum line. Old, forgotten, but still active. The message had only one word: Earth. Far away, light years across the stars, that signal reached its destination. Deep inside a cold and quiet mountain on Earth, a computer woke up. Its screen flickered. A message appeared. Red text. One word. A warning from a world that had once called Earth weak. The AI processed the message and triggered an alert. Sirens began to ring across secret military bases hidden across the planet. Old machines powered up. Command centers filled with officers who hadn't seen combat in decades. Earth was watching again. Back on Vega Prime, everything was chaos. Fires lit up the horizon. People tried to flee in ships, but the sky was full of black ships. Only a few made it out. One of those ships held a young alien named Calren, once a proud fighter pilot, now just a survivor. His craft was damaged, his crew injured. But he carried a copy of the message. His ship jumped into hyperspace, hoping to reach Earth's edge before the enemy caught him. The black ships didn't chase him. They didn't need to. Vega Prime was already lost. The ground split open. The oceans boiled. The planet was dying. And yet, far away in the silence of Earth's command center, a general stared at the message on the screen. He hadn't seen the word Vega in years. He remembered the arguments, the insults, the day Earth walked out of the council chambers forever. Now they were calling again. Now they were begging. The general turned to his team. "Wake the council. Tell them the Alliance just called for help." "Do we answer?" a young officer asked. The general looked at the stars on the screen. Behind them, black shapes moved, slowly, silently, too familiar. "We might not have a choice," he said. Somewhere in deep space, Calren's ship flew through hyperspace, leaking air and light. His crew was silent. He stared at the navigation screen, blood dripping down his forehead. In the corner of the screen, a blue dot blinked. Earth. He whispered to himself, "Please, let them answer." And in Earth's sky, hidden from the world, massive hangars opened. Machines that hadn't seen sunlight in decades were waking up. Weapons too powerful to exist in peacetime began to charge. The call had been heard. Earth was listening. Rain poured down over the dark peaks of Antarctica as a hidden door slid open for the first time in nearly 50 years. Deep under the ice, a forgotten war bunker roared to life. Bright lights flickered on. Cold steel walls shivered with energy. Ancient screens glowed green. Sirens echoed through long, silent hallways. Soldiers who had grown old waiting for this moment stood tall again. The message had arrived. The one word that everyone on Earth had hoped would never be heard again. Vega. General Marcus Hale walked slowly into the command chamber. His face was stern, but his eyes showed what he felt. Memories, regret, and something more dangerous. Anger. He stood in front of the giant screen showing the dying planet Vega Prime. Smoke clouds, firestorms, crumbling cities. Even in low resolution, the destruction was terrifying. Everyone in the room watched in silence. A few whispered to each other, recognizing familiar places where they had once worked, traded, or studied. Earth had history with Vega Prime, but history didn't erase betrayal. Many years ago, Earth had warned the Galactic Alliance about something coming. Strange readings at the edge of the galaxy, ships disappearing, entire colonies going silent. Earth scientists had called it a threat. Earth soldiers had called it war, but the Council had laughed. They called humans paranoid, too violent, too emotional. They said Earth had always wanted power, and this was just another excuse. So Earth walked away, quietly but not weakly. They built walls. They focused on home. They waited. And now, the very same Council had sent a desperate message, calling Earth their last hope. In a high-security briefing room, leaders from Earth's Secret Defense Command gathered. Scientists, generals, pilots, AI representatives. They reviewed the signal data. The enemy was unlike anything recorded in Alliance history. Ships larger than cities. Weapons that bent light. Technology that Earth had only theorized. The Vraks were their name. Or at least that's what survivors were calling them. No one knew where they came from or what they wanted. All they knew was that Vega Prime was gone in a matter of hours. And still, Earth hesitated. We warned them, one old diplomat said, shaking his head. They spit on our warnings. But billions are dying, replied Commander Lin. We're still human, we still care. General Hale remained silent. He watched a video loop, children screaming as black ships filled the sky. Then he slowly stood. This isn't just about them asking for help, he said. It's about what happens if we don't. Everyone turned to him. If Vega falls, the Vraks move next. They're not going to stop. Not at Vega, not at any border. And they will come here. So we fight? Asked a voice. Hale nodded. We fight, but on our terms. Earth answers, but this time, Earth leads. The room fell into agreement. Within the hour, Earth's skies filled with motion. Massive warships rose from hidden oceans and underground vaults. The old defense network, once called the Iron Web, reactivated. Satellites launched. Mechs the size of buildings were prepped by engineers who thought they'd never be used. Earth had built all of it in silence, behind closed doors, away from alien eyes. In one of the launch bays, young cadet Maya watched as the Titans, giant robotic war machines, powered up. She had trained for this moment her whole life, but even now her hands trembled. Her father had been one of the original engineers who helped design Earth's secret fleet after they left the Alliance. He always told her, one day the galaxy will remember who we are. Now that day had come. Across the stars, Calrin's broken ship finally exited hyperspace near Earth's outer defense ring. His ship barely held together. Warning lights flashed. Life support was failing. But Earth's long-range sensors caught the signal, and a patrol fleet intercepted him before his ship broke apart completely. When Calrin woke up in Earth's medical station, he expected prison or death. But instead he saw human doctors treating his crew. He saw kindness. He saw order. And he saw weapons so advanced that even his own military training couldn't understand them. He looked up at the humans standing over him. a young commander with sharp eyes. "We heard your message," she said, "and we're preparing a response." Calren coughed. "Why help us after what the Council did?" The commander didn't smile. "Because Earth doesn't forget, but we also don't run." Later that night, a global message was sent from Earth's Central Command to all known systems. "This is Earth. We have received the distress call from Vega Prime. We will respond. But this time we will not ask permission. We will not follow. We will lead." The galaxy watched in silence as the stars above Earth lit up, not with fear, but with fire. Earth had returned, and this time the rules had changed. The stars above Earth trembled as the first fleet left orbit. Dozens of massive ships rose through the clouds, each one glowing with energy, painted black and silver with the emblem of a rising sun on the hull. Civilians across the planet watched in silence. Some cried, some cheered, others simply stared, knowing what this moment meant. For the first time in decades, Earth wasn't just defending itself. It was going to war. But this time, it was not. For land, not for politics, not even for revenge. It was something deeper. It was the answer to a cry for help. And Earth never ignored a cry. Inside the flagship Eclipse, Commander Reyna Voss stood in the war room, eyes locked on the holographic map. Red zones showed Vega Prime, now a dead planet. Blue zones flickered where the Alliance still had life. But most of the map was gray, unresponsive, silent, or worse. She turned to her crew. "We don't know what's waiting out there, but we won't wait for it to come to us. Today, Earth speaks." Reyna was young for a fleet commander, but she had something no other officer in the galaxy had. She had trained under the Titans. These weren't just war veterans. They were legends, men and women who had survived Earth's darkest days and built the new defense program in secret. Reyna had seen what Earth could do when it stopped talking and started acting. She had been preparing for this war her whole life. Calren stood quietly in the corner, dressed in Earth-issued armor now. His wounds were healing, but his mind wasn't. The destruction of Vega Prime still played in his head every time he closed his eyes. He had told Earth everything he knew about the Vracs, their weapons, their silence, their hunger. But even he admitted he didn't truly understand them. No one did. The Vracs didn't negotiate, they didn't speak, they just moved forward, system by system, leaving ash behind. Reyna noticed his troubled face. "You survived something no one else did," she said. "Now you help us stop it." He nodded slowly. "I just hope we're not too late." The Eclipse jumped into hyperspace, followed by dozens of destroyers, cruisers, and support ships. They weren't just carrying weapons, they carried engineers, medics, AI units, and something more dangerous than any bomb: Earth's full intent. These ships weren't built to occupy, they were built to end wars. Far from Earth, the first human patrol reached a silent Alliance colony near the edge of Vrax territory. What they found was horrifying. An entire city turned to glass. No bodies. No signs of struggle. Just a single mark burned into the center of the plaza. A Vrax symbol, one no human could read, but all of them understood. "This place is dead." Reyna's voice came through the fleet channel. "Scan for survivors. Collect data. Then burn this place. We're not leaving anything they can use." On Earth, the world watched the fleet's mission unfold through public broadcasts. For the first time in years, countries stood united. People of every nation cheered as Earth's old war machines returned to action. Titans marched again. The iron web spread across the stars. Earth wasn't hiding anymore. Meanwhile, a message arrived from the Alliance. The Council, what remained of it, begged Earth for support. Their borders were falling. Their navies were broken. They offered apologies, promises, even surrender. But Earth didn't answer them. Not yet. Instead, Reyna made a private recording. Her message was simple. "This isn't about saving you. This is about saving everyone." The first battle came sooner than expected. Near the burned moon of Halix, Earth's fleet made contact with a Vrax scouting armada. The enemy ships were dark, silent, and shaped like nothing the humans had ever seen. They looked like living shadows, bending around light, moving without sound. Reyna gave the order, "Engage." What followed wasn't a fight, it was a test. The Vrax fired beams that twisted metal, shattered shields, and warped time around impact zones. But Earth's ships held. Their new armor, built in silence over decades, absorbed the blast. Their AI-guided missiles struck deep. Their rail cannons tore holes in Vrax ships that had never known defeat. For the first time, the Vrax retreated. Earth's fleet didn't chase. They didn't need to. The message had been sent. Humanity had arrived. And they were not afraid. Later, as the fleet regrouped near a recovered Alliance outpost, Calren stood beside Reyna on the bridge. He watched the humans work together. Efficient, calm, strong. "We thought you were just angry soldiers," he said. Reyna didn't look at him. "We are. But we're also something else." "What?" She finally turned. "The one force the Vrax will wish they never woke up." And deep in space, in a place where even light feared to travel, the Vrax gathered. Their hive ship pulsed with a dark glow. They had underestimated the humans. They would not do so again. The Alliance High Council met in a ruined hall with cracked glass ceilings and broken lights. The once great chamber of peace now echoed with fear. Holograms of dying worlds blinked in red all around them. One showed an entire star turning black. Another showed ships being torn apart in complete silence. Every delegate present knew the truth. They were losing. Their fleets were gone. Their borders had collapsed. The Vrax were not just winning, they were erasing everything. And now, the only name that brought even a little hope was the one they had once laughed at: Earth. Ambassador Relic, the last speaker of Vega Prime, stood before the Council's fractured circle. His voice was cracked, his uniform burned, but his message was clear. Earth is not what we thought. They are more than survivors. They are warriors. And they are coming. The chamber fell silent, not because of fear, but because of shame. For years, the Council had mocked Earth, called them backward, too emotional, too violent. But now they had sent no less than 50 capital ships, all fully armed, and had held off a Vrax assault near Helix, something no other power had managed. On Earth's flagship Eclipse, Commander Reyna Voss reviewed intercepted communications from the Alliance. Their messages were full of panic, begging for unity, asking for weapons, soldiers, even safe refuge. Her officers looked at her, waiting for a reply. But Reyna was silent. Finally, she stood up. "They broke the Alliance the moment they turned their backs on Earth," she said. "Now they want us to rebuild it for them?" The crew didn't answer, but they didn't disagree either. Calren sat in the medical bay, watching old news reports from years ago. Clips of Earth being mocked during council sessions, their warnings ignored, their fleets laughed at. Now those same leaders were gone. Some dead, others hiding. Calren felt the weight of it all. He had been one of those who once believed Earth was dangerous. But now, Earth was the only reason he was alive. A sudden alarm rang through the ship. Another Vrax attack. This time at the colony world of Doran 6, one of the last strongholds in the inner systems. The Eclipse jumped without delay. Inside the colony, civilians screamed as black ships poured from the sky. But this time, Earth arrived before everything was lost. Human drop pods fell like meteors, carrying Titan mechs and heavily armed squads. The battlefield lit up in blue fire and metal thunder. Earth's forces moved with deadly precision. Their AI-controlled drones flanked enemy units their energy shields held. The Vrax, for the second time, were pushed back. After the battle, Doran 6's governor, a proud alien named Sivka, knelt in front of Reyna. "We owe you everything," he said. Reyna helped him stand. "We're not here for thanks. We're here because no one else will come." Meanwhile, back in Earth's Defense Command, General Marcus Hale faced a new dilemma. Some Earth leaders wanted to ignore the Alliance and protect only human colonies. Others believed Earth should take charge of the entire war effort, not just answer calls for help. Hale knew both sides had truth, but in the end, he chose action. He sent a universal broadcast from Earth. Short, clear, impossible to ignore. This is General Marcus Hale of Earth. We are not part of the Council. We do not follow the Alliance, but we will not watch the galaxy burn. If you can fight, stand with us. If you can't, stay out of our way. The message spread like wildfire. Across broken worlds and abandoned stations, survivors began to believe again. Ships from other species started joining Earth's growing fleet, not because of orders, but because of hope. Even Calrin's own people, the Varani, sent a small unit of stealth fighters to join Earth's command. Slowly, something new was forming, not the old alliance, but something stronger. Not built on politics, but on trust earned in battle. On board Eclipse, Reyna received word of a secret alliance bunker where council leaders were hiding, waiting to escape the war. She stared at the message for a long time. Then she turned to Calrin. "You know where this place is?" He nodded. "Yes." "Then let's go show them what Earth remembers." As the ship jumped into light, Earth's message echoed again. In the stars, this was no longer just about defense, it was about justice, and the Vraks, they were watching too. Inside one of their hive ships, a captured broadcast played on a strange living screen. A human voice, clear and cold. "We warned you once. You didn't listen. Now we speak with fire." The Vraks began to change tactics. They would no longer just destroy. They would hunt. And the next target would not be a weak world, it would be Earth itself. Over the Pacific Ocean, the sky turned black at noon. Satellites blinked out. Communications failed. Then came the sound, low, deep, like a storm growling from the stars. Every sensor on Earth lit up. An unidentified object, larger than any known warship, was entering the solar system. It wasn't just a ship. It was a Vrax hive ship, and it was heading straight for Earth. Panic swept across the globe. Sirens screamed. Emergency shelters opened. Families hugged their children as skies filled with falling stars. But they weren't stars. They were escape pods, launched from Earth's orbiting stations, shot down one by the approaching shadow. Inside Earth Command, General Marcus Hale stood frozen for only a second. "Launch all Titans," he ordered. "Activate Iron Wall. Earth is no longer a backline, this is the front." Hundreds of Titan mechs, hidden deep underground for decades, came to life. Massive steel giants, some as tall as buildings, rose from mountain bases and deep bunkers. Their eyes glowed blue as AI systems came online. Pilots strapped in, soldiers loaded weapons. Earth was ready, but barely. The Vrax hive ship entered low orbit like a mountain falling from the sky. It didn't fire, it didn't speak, it simply opened. From its dark belly, thousands of sleek black drones poured out like insects, falling through the atmosphere with deadly precision. Their goal was clear: destroy Earth's defenses and bring the homeworld to its knees. Reyna Voss, still aboard the Eclipse, watched the horror unfold from the edge of the moon. "They're making a statement," she said. "They want to break us here at home." Calrin stood beside her. "If they take Earth, the rest of the galaxy will lose hope." Reyna nodded, eyes sharp. "Then we don't let them take a single street." The Eclipse dropped into Earth's atmosphere, leading a small task force of ships now painted with the flags of other worlds. Varani fighters, Kardar destroyers, even rogue Alliance frigates, all joined Earth's forces. This was no longer just humanity's fight. As the battle began, the streets of New York, Tokyo, Cairo, and Delhi turned into war zones. Titan mechs marched beside tanks and human infantry, holding lines against endless waves of black drones. Above, fighter jets clashed with enemy interceptors, and orbital cannons tried to punch holes in the hive ship's shell. But it wasn't enough. The Vraks were adapting. They learned Earth's tactics fast. Too fast. Inside a Titan cockpit, pilot Jenna Cole saw her squad being wiped out one by one. "We need backup," she yelled. "They're flanking from the west." But there was no response. Her comms were jammed. Then, from the smoke, came a flash of light. A new unit arrived. Not human, not from Earth. A Varani mech, tall and sharp like a blade, landed beside her and opened fire. Calren had come to fight, not as a refugee but as a soldier. More reinforcements arrived, not by command but by choice. Civilians picked up rifles. Retired soldiers returned to the front. Underground cities turned into strongholds. Earth refused to fall quietly. In the Iron Citadel beneath Antarctica, General Hale watched a red timer on the wall. If the hive ship reached a certain point, Earth would have to activate the contingency, a last resort strike that could destroy the enemy, but also half the planet. Reyna's voice came through the comm. "We need more time. Don't use it, it. "May not have a choice," Hale replied. "Make one," she said, and cut the link. Reyna and Calren made a plan: break into the hive ship and destroy its control core from inside. It was suicide, but Earth had no other options. The Eclipse flew straight into the storm of drones, engines burning, shields failing. Inside, a small squad of elite troops, including Calren, prepared for the breach. Reyna led them. "No speeches," she said. "Just survive. Just win." They entered the hive ship's dark belly. It was alive. Walls pulsed with strange veins. The air was thick. Every step brought new horrors: screaming faces trapped in the walls, captured technology twisted into Vrax machines. But the team pushed forward, planting charges, clearing paths, reaching the core. A pulsing, massive brain surrounded by black cables and glowing tendrils. Calren stepped forward, placing the final charge. But before he could move, something rose from the shadows. A Vrax leader, taller than any drone, armored like obsidian with burning red eyes. It didn't speak. It attacked. The team fought hard. 2 soldiers died instantly. Calren was thrown against the wall. Reyna's armor cracked. The creature was faster, stronger, and immune to fear. But Earth had one weapon the Vrax didn't understand: will. Reyna grabbed a fallen railgun, took one shot, and hit the charge. The explosion tore the core apart. The hive ship began to collapse. Drones fell from the sky. Earth's defenses lit up with hope. They had survived. Back on the surface, General Hale stood before the world and said only one sentence: "We are not done yet." Far away in the dark reaches of space, other hive ships stirred, and this time they would come together. The fires still burned across the ruins of Paris, Johannesburg, and Shanghai. Smoke climbed into the sky like dark fingers reaching for stars. Earth had survived, but barely. Entire cities were lost, and millions were gone. Families dug through rubble, not for gold or machines, but for each other. The Vrax hive ship had been destroyed, but the cost was heavy. As the sun rose over a broken planet, the question in every survivor's heart was the same: what happens next? From deep underground, General Marcus Hale watched live feeds from across the globe. Earth's defenses were nearly spent. Ammunition low, medical supplies gone. The Iron Wall network was offline. But still they had one thing left: hope. For the first time in galactic history, Earth had not only stood alone, but had pushed the enemy back. That story was spreading across the stars, reaching species who once stayed silent. And now the silence was breaking. Dozens of ships began to arrive in Earth's orbit, not to invade, but to help. They came from shattered colonies, pirate crews, old enemies, and forgotten friends. Some offered medics, others brought weapons, a few even brought food and clean water. Earth had done the impossible. And now, the galaxy finally believed. Commander Reyna Voss stood atop a mountain of wreckage in what was once London. Her armor was cracked, her face was bloodied, but her voice was calm. She spoke to a live broadcast sent to every planet still listening. "This war is not just Earth's. The Vrax won't stop. You know that now. So don't wait to be next. Stand with us, fight back, this is your last chance." In a quiet corner of the Eclipse, Calren sat beside wounded soldiers, alien and human alike. He shared what food he had, what little comfort he could give. He had once believed his people, the Varani, were superior to Earth's wild and emotional humans. But now, watching a human child hand a blanket to a Kardar warrior, Calren understood. Earth's strength wasn't just in machines. It was in its heart. At Earth's new command center, an old mountain vault reactivated after decades, leaders of different worlds met face to face. They came in cloaks, armor, robes, and uniforms. No politics, no games. Only one goal: survive together. General Hale stood at the head of the table. "You all saw what happened," he said. "The Vraks will return, and next time they won't come with one hive ship. They'll come with 5, maybe 10. If we wait, we die. If we argue, we die. We fight. Now." Some leaders hesitated. Old grudges rose again. The Jour delegate said Earth couldn't be trusted. The Threks demanded leadership. But then Sivka, the alien governor of Doran 6, stood. "Earth saved my world when no one else would. I follow them." One by one, others followed. The Unity Pact was signed, not with ceremony but with blood and urgency. A new fleet began to form. Ships were rebuilt, upgraded with Earth's technology. Titan mechs were shared, pilots trained together. For the first time, alien soldiers learned how to think like humans. Fast, brutal, creative. And they liked. And meanwhile, Reyna and Calrin worked on intelligence. They discovered a terrible truth. The hive ship destroyed over Earth was only a scout. The real swarm was still gathering near the dead nebula, hidden in a gravity storm. And they were building something bigger than any ship seen before. The final hive. Reyna's plan was simple. Strike before it's ready. Not wait, not defend. Attack, but the galaxy wasn't ready for that. Fear still lingered. Some allies refused to go. Some demanded more time. Earth didn't have time. Reyna made her choice. "We'll go with whoever is willing, even if it's just us." To everyone's surprise, more ships joined her than expected. The Varani sent their best cloaked vessels. The Kardar gave their siege cannons. Even the rogue Hilari clans offered strike wings. The new united fleet wasn't large, but it was deadly. As the fleet jumped toward the dead nebula, silence filled every bridge. No music, no speeches, just quiet preparation. Soldiers loaded weapons. Engineers checked systems. Pilots whispered to their ships. They all knew this might be their final flight. On board the Eclipse, Calrin looked out at the stars. "They'll throw everything at us," Reyna nodded. "Good, we'll throw it back." In the shadows of the dead nebula, the final hive waited, bigger than a moon, covered in armor like living bone. Its sensors detected the incoming fleet, but it did not react. Inside, the Vraks leaders watched in silence. Then one hissed a word, not in fear but in hunger. Earth. The trap was already set, and this time the enemy was ready. The stars vanished when the fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Thick clouds of radiation and swirling debris filled the dead nebula. But that wasn't what made the crew of every ship fall silent. What froze them was what lay ahead. A living fortress. The final hive. Larger than Earth's moon, it moved slowly like a creature in deep sleep. Hundreds of massive arms floated around it, part ship, part weapon, part nightmare. It didn't just block signals, it swallowed them. No radar, no comms. Just silence, total silence. And then the lights on the hive blinked red. The Vraks were awake. On the Eclipse, alarms blared. Reyna Voss gripped the edge of her command console as the ship shook violently. "We've been spotted," the pilot yelled. "Incoming swarm. Full speed." Reyna didn't flinch. "All ships, defensive formation. Keep the Titans covered." But even before her words reached the fleet, the swarm arrived. Thousands of black insect-like fighters burst from the hive like a tidal wave. Some were the size of cars. Others were as big as buildings. All of them moved with one mind and one mission: destroy everything. Titan units were launched from the Allied ships. Giant war machines landed on floating platforms and asteroid bases, turning the field of space into a battlefield. Human pilots fought side by side with Varani storm units and Kardar artillery walkers. Calrin, now leading the ground strike team, dropped with his mech onto a shattered rock near the hive's outer layer. Around him, alien warriors landed hard, weapons raised. "No retreat," Calrin shouted. "No surrender." But the hive had more than drones. For the first time, Vrak's commanders appeared, tall, armored creatures with glowing red blades and wings made of dark matter. They fought with terrifying speed. One by one, parts of the fleet began to fall. Explosions lit up, the nebula like false stars. Reyna watched in horror as 2 Kardar cruisers were ripped apart. "We can't hold this line," someone shouted. "Then break through it," Reyna ordered. "We're not here to fight them forever. We're here to get inside." That was the true plan. Breach the hive, find its control core, and destroy it from within, just like before. But this hive was smarter. It was learning from them. Every move they made, the Vraks countered. The eclipse itself took heavy hits. Hull breaches, fires, casualties. Reyna's command room shook as sparks flew from the walls. Still, she didn't leave. "Get me to that door," she said. Meanwhile, Calrin's strike team reached the outer skin of the hive. They planted explosive charges and waited. "Now!" he shouted, and the side of the hive cracked open like a rotten shell. They moved fast through the tunnels, dark, pulsing, alive. The walls breathed. Lights blinked. Screams echoed from somewhere deep inside. The hive was not just alive, it was aware, and it was afraid. Deeper in, they reached the inner core. A massive chamber pulsed with red veins and black crystal. In the center hung the hive mind, a creature of pure nightmare, half flesh, half machine. It didn't move. It simply watched with dozens of red eyes. Calrin approached slowly, planting the final bomb. But the hive mind spoke, not with words, but with thoughts. "You are too late. Earth will fall. Even if I die, others will rise. You cannot stop what is coming." Calrin hesitated. The creature was right. This hive wasn't the only one. More would come. This was just the beginning. But then he remembered what Reyna said. "We don't win by surviving. We win by making sure they know Earth won't bow." He pressed the detonator. The hive began to collapse. Reyna watched from the eclipse as the hive cracked open from the center. A light brighter than any sun poured out. The swarm stopped mid-flight, confused, broken. The rest of the fleet didn't wait. They attacked. With the hive mind gone, the Vraks finally lost control. Their ships crashed into each other. Their drones drifted like dead leaves. The Allied forces pushed forward, driving the last of the enemy into the fire. Minutes later, silence returned to the nebula, but not the same silence. This was the silence of victory. Back on Earth, celebrations broke out across the planet. Families hugged, soldiers wept. In refugee camps across the galaxy, the news spread fast. The hive is gone. Earth has won. Reyna stood at the center of Earth Command, her armor scorched, her voice tired. She looked at the world leaders who once ignored Earth and said, "We never asked to lead, but when the darkness came, we didn't run. We stood. And now so must you." Calrin watched the stars from orbit. "It's not over," he said quietly. "But now, we have a chance." And far away, deep in the galaxy, in a dark place where no light reached, another hive stirred. Smaller, weaker, but growing. It remembered Earth, and it was afraid. The galaxy should have been calm. The hive was dead. The swarm defeated. Yet something felt wrong. Ships disappeared near the edge of the Sarin Belt. Colonies stopped responding. At first, the Alliance blamed communication failures. Then came the footage. A Hilari scout ship, drifting silently, torn open from the inside. Its crew? Gone. No blood. No bodies. Just one message carved into the control panel. They are not finished. General Hale stared at the screen, his jaw tight. "The Vraks aren't done," he said. This was just the first storm. On board the Eclipse, now repaired and upgraded, Reyna Voss and Calren prepared for their next mission. But something was different this time. There were no enemy fleets waiting, no hive in sight, just silence, deep, heavy silence. And that scared them more than any battle. The first to respond to the distress calls was a small Earth patrol team. 3 ships entered the Saran Belt and never came back. A 4th ship returned, but the crew had changed. They didn't speak, didn't eat, just stared. And then one by one, they died, without wounds, without reason. The only clue was found inside their nav systems. A single word repeatedly flashed in corrupted code: echo. Reyna knew what that meant. Somewhere, something had copied the hive's mind. Maybe not the whole thing, but a shadow of it. A memory. A virus. And it was spreading. Calren led an investigation to a nearby abandoned colony once connected to the Vraks. What they found chilled even the hardened soldiers. The colony was empty, no life, no movement. But every building was marked with strange patterns, symbols no one recognized. In the center square stood a child's toy, still spinning in the wind. "It's like they vanished," Calren whispered, "like someone erased them." As his team searched deeper, they found signs of life. But it wasn't normal. It was twisted. Alien tech fused with bones, machines growing out of walls. The colony hadn't been destroyed. It had been rewritten. Back on Earth, scientists worked to decode the strange energy readings from the colony. What they discovered shocked everyone. The Vraks had left behind a signal, one that didn't die with the hive. It was buried deep in space, like a ticking clock, slowly activating hidden cells across the stars. Earth wasn't just being watched, it was being tested. The hive's shadow wanted to see if fear would break them from within. It didn't need armies. It only needed doubt. Panic began to spread. Some colonies closed their borders. Others blamed Earth for provoking the Vraks in the first place. The fragile unity began to crack. Riots broke out in the outer rings. Refugees demanded answers. Earth couldn't fight a ghost. Not like this. But Reyna had a plan. Not to fight it, but to expose it. She gathered the remaining Titan pilots and alien leaders into one fleet. "We're not waiting for them to strike again," she said. "We go to the signal source, we end this, whatever it is, before it begins." The source was hidden in the black maze, a dead zone of space where light couldn't escape and ships often disappeared. No sane fleet had ever entered it. But Reyna wasn't interested in playing safe. The new fleet jumped in and instantly lost all contact. No comms, no scans, just darkness. In that dark, something moved. A whisper. A pulse. Ships began to behave strangely. Lights flickered. Gravity twisted. Some crew heard voices. Others saw memories that weren't theirs. Reyna felt a pressure in her head, like something was trying to dig into her thoughts. Calren pulled her back. "It's the echo," he said. "It's trying to break us before it fights us." But Reyna smiled. "Then let's show it what breaking really looks like." They reached the signal's heart, an artificial planet made of metal and bones. It wasn't a hive. It was a graveyard. But in its center was a sphere of pure black energy, pulsing, like a heartbeat. This was the source, not a weapon, a mind. The last echo of the hive trying to rebuild itself. If it succeeded, it would not be like the others. It would be worse, smarter, invisible. Reyna ordered the final operation. Dive into the planet, place charges, destroy the core. The moment her team landed, they were attacked, not by drones, but illusions. Soldiers saw lost family, heard cries for help. Some froze. Others turned on each other. It was mental war now. Calren held the line, forcing his team forward. "It's not real!" he shouted. "Keep moving!" At the center, Reyna saw a figure waiting. It looked like her. Spoke like her, it said. "You can't stop what's already inside you. but she didn't answer. She fired. The black core cracked. The illusion died. The sphere exploded. The echo was gone. Back on Earth, everything went quiet again. No more signals. No, more disappearances. But no one cheered. They knew better. Raina stood alone, watching the stars. This wasn't the end, she said. It was the warning. And somewhere far away, something else listened. Not Vrax, not Hive, but older. And it had heard Earth's name. The stars were no longer silent. After the fall of the echo, strange signals began appearing across the galaxy. They weren't in any known language. Not Hive, not Vrax, not even machine code. But they shared one terrifying truth. They all spoke Earth's name. Raina Voss stood alone on the Eclipse's viewing deck, watching those patterns dance across her screen. They pulsed like a heartbeat, slow and steady, as if something, somewhere, was waking up. "We've triggered something," she whispered. The echo wasn't just a fragment of the hive. It had been a door. And now that door had opened. Far beyond known space, in a system older than maps could trace, they watched. They were not Vrax, not part of the hive. They were the architects, creatures of void and energy who once shaped galaxies like clay. They had built the hive as a test to see which species could rise through chaos. Most failed. Most fell. But Earth had done something new. It had survived. It had fought. It had changed the rules, and now the architects were interested. Earth's skies changed first. Satellites picked up sudden anomalies, brief flashes of light, gravity waves, magnetic storms, then silence. Observatories caught glimpses of strange structures far off, in space, hovering at the edge of reality. They weren't ships. They were watchers. Black towers with no engines, no windows, just presence. Raina knew what it meant. "We're being studied," she said during an emergency meeting. "And they're not hiding anymore." The Alliance was terrified. Some called for surrender to who they didn't even know. Others blamed Earth for waking these ancient beings. But a few stood with Earth, remembering the Titans, remembering Vega Prime, remembering that when no one else came, it was humans who fought back. Calren gathered his forces again. "If these architects want to test us," he said, "we'll give them a reason to fear us too." But the architects didn't attack. They sent a message, one that appeared in the mind of every leader, every soldier, every child at the same time. A single sentence, clear and cold: "You are not ready." And then one location was revealed: ATR, dead world orbiting a dying star. No name, no warnings, just coordinates. A challenge. Raina, Calren, and a hand-picked team flew there in silence. The planet was covered in ancient ruins, giant stone circles, deep underground vaults, strange machines long turned to dust. But one thing still worked. In the center of the ruins stood a glowing gate, 10 stories tall, humming with power. As they approached, it activated. A bright white light pulsed out, and everything changed. Suddenly they were not on the planet anymore. They were in a simulation, no, a memory, but not their memory. The sky was made of symbols. The ground pulsed with life. And all around them stood creatures from hundreds of dead civilizations, long erased from history. They were echoes of the past, species that had failed the test. Each one fell trying to survive the hive, each one had lost. And now the architects wanted to see what made Earth different. Raina and Calren were split from their team. Each faced trials alone, visions, fears, battles against perfect versions of themselves. Raina saw Vega Prime burning again. She saw herself walking away. The memory told her, "You could have stayed hidden. Earth could have been safe." But she replied, "Safe is not the same as free." She fought her way through the illusion, bleeding and breathless. Calren faced his past as well, his people's betrayal, his doubts, his guilt. But he stood tall. "We made mistakes," he said. "But we learn. That's what makes us dangerous." At the center of the test, Reyna and Calren reunited. There, they saw the true face of the architects, not as monsters but as mirrors. Beings of light constantly shifting, showing what could be, or what could be lost. One of them spoke, not with sound but with feeling. You are flawed, brutal, loud, but you do not kneel, you do not forget, you do not give up. That is rare, that is valuable. And then, without warning, the simulation ended. They were back on the dead world. The gate was gone. The ruins were silent, but Reyna knew something had changed. When they returned to Earth, the Watchers were gone. The strange signal stopped. For the first time in weeks, the stars felt calm again, but something lingered. Earth's orbit, a gift waited, a small sphere floating just above the clouds. It was not made of metal, it had no power source, and yet it held a single word carved into its surface. Next. Reyna picked it up and smiled. They're not our enemies, she said. Not yet. But they're watching and waiting. Calren looked up at the stars and whispered, Then we better be ready. And deep beyond the edge of the known universe, the architects turned their gaze to another place, another world. Earth had passed the first test. But more would come. Because in their eyes the game had just begun. The sky over Earth cracked, with thunder, though there were no clouds. Lights danced in the upper atmosphere like ribbons of fire. People across the planet looked up, afraid to speak. Something had returned, but this time it wasn't hidden. This time it was coming openly. The architects had sent a second message. This one wasn't just a warning. It was a countdown. All screens on Earth went black. Then 5 words appeared. Simple, cold, final. You will be tested now. Reyna Voss stood in Earth Command, her hands gripping the table, heart pounding. They had passed the first trial. They had survived the Hive, the Echo, and the Watchers. But this would be different. They're not checking if we're strong, she said quietly. They're seeing if we're worthy. Across the solar system, architect probes appeared, tall, silent, floating black monoliths that scanned everything, ships, cities, people. Some governments panicked. Others surrendered before a shot was fired. But Earth did not bow. General Hale, Calren, and Reyna stood together on the command deck of the Eclipse, now Earth's flagship. They knew they wouldn't win with weapons alone. This wasn't just a war of firepower, it was a war of meaning, of purpose. The architects wanted to see Earth's soul. The test began when a rift opened near Jupiter. From it came a massive structure, a moving world, half machine, half storm, created by the architects. It was not here to destroy Earth. It was here to tempt it. One voice, broadcast to all minds, offered a simple deal. Join us. Give up your pain. We will erase war, fear, hunger. We will perfect you. On Earth, billions listened. Some were tempted. Some shouted in rage. But Reyna stepped forward and said, What no one else could. You don't understand us. Our pain makes us who we are. Our scars are our strength. The architects responded not with words but with illusions. They made Reyna live a perfect life. A version of reality where Vega Prime never fell, where the Hive never came, where Earth was at peace forever. She felt the sun on her face, saw her family alive, felt joy. But she knew it was fake. And she tore it down. Calren was tested too. He was shown a future where his people ruled, where the Alliance had won without Earth's help. But it was cold, empty, hollow. He rejected it. One by one, Earth's defenders faced these dreams and broke them. The final test came in the form of choice. The architects summoned a weapon, massive, powerful, capable of erasing entire stars. They aimed it at an innocent alien world, then said, We will destroy them, unless you destroy yourselves first. The galaxy held its breath. Was Earth selfish? Would they trade another race to survive? Reyna didn't hesitate. She ordered all ships to protect the alien world. We're not perfect, she said to the architects, but we don't sacrifice others to save ourselves. That's what makes us human. Then everything stopped. No explosion came, no fire, no death. The weapon vanished. The monoliths disappeared. The lights in the sky faded. And for the first time since the war began, there was peace. In space above Earth, something appeared. A single architect, no longer hidden, no longer distant. It floated before the eclipse and spoke directly to Reyna, to Calren, to every human alive. You chose the hard path. You chose it again and again, and that is why you live. Then the being faded into light and was gone. Reyna collapsed to her knees, not from pain, but from relief. Calren placed a hand on her shoulder. We did it, he said softly. We finally did it. Back on Earth, people cheered. Children danced in the streets. The stars were silent again, but not empty. They were watching still. But now, they watched with respect. A monument was built in Vega Prime's orbit, carved from pieces of the first Titan, shining like a sword pointed toward the stars. Its base held a message in every known language: we remember, we survive, we protect. Reyna visited it often. She never stopped leading, but she never stopped mourning either. She lost friends, comrades, entire worlds. But she knew none of it was in vain. Calren returned to his people, not as a soldier, but as a bridge between worlds. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a name carried across the galaxy like a legend, a symbol of resistance, of mercy, of fire and hope. The war had ended, but humanity's story had just begun. Because now, the stars knew Earth, and they would never forget. The sky over Earth cracked with thunder, though there were no clouds. Lights danced in the upper atmosphere like ribbons of fire. People across the planet looked up, afraid to speak. Something had returned. But this time it wasn't hidden. This time it was coming openly. The architects had sent a second message. This one wasn't just a warning, it was a countdown. All screens on Earth went black. Then 5 words appeared. Simple, cold, final. You will be tested now. Reyna Voss stood in Earth Command, her hands gripping the table, heart pounding. They had passed the first trial. They had survived the Hive, the Echo, and the Watchers. But this would be different. They're not checking if we're strong, she said quietly. They're seeing if we're worthy. Across the solar system, architect probes appeared, tall, silent, floating black monoliths that scanned everything, ships, cities, people. Some governments panicked, others surrendered before a shot was fired. But Earth did not bow. General Hale, Calren, and Reyna stood together on the command deck of the Eclipse, now Earth's flagship. They knew they wouldn't win with weapons alone. This wasn't just a war of firepower. It was a war of meaning, of purpose. The architects wanted to see Earth's soul. The test began when a rift opened near Jupiter. From it came a massive structure, AI, moving world, half machine, half storm, created by the architects. It was not here to destroy Earth. It was here to tempt it. One voice, broadcast to all minds, offered a simple deal. Join us. Give up your pain. We will erase war, fear, hunger. We will perfect you. On Earth, billions listened. Some were tempted, some shouted in rage. But Reyna stepped forward and said what no one else could. You don't understand us. Our pain makes us who we are. Our scars are our strength. The architects responded not with words, but with illusions. They made Reyna live a perfect life, a version of reality where Vega Prime never fell, where the Hive never came, where Earth was at peace forever. She felt the sun on her face, saw her family alive, felt joy, but she knew it was fake. And she tore it down. Calren was tested too. He was shown a future where his people ruled, where the Alliance had won without Earth's help. But it was cold, empty, hollow. He rejected it. One by one, Earth's defenders faced these dreams and broke them. The final test came in the form of choice. The architects summoned a weapon, massive, powerful, capable of erasing entire stars. They aimed it at an innocent alien world, then said, "We will destroy them, unless you destroy yourselves first." The galaxy held its breath. Was Earth selfish? Would they trade another race to survive? Reyna didn't hesitate. She ordered all ships to protect the alien world. "We're not perfect," she said to the architects, "but we don't sacrifice others to save ourselves. That's what makes us human." Then everything stopped. No explosion came, no fire, no death. The weapon vanished. The monoliths disappeared. The lights in the sky faded. And for the first time since the war began, there was peace. In space above Earth, something appeared. A single architect, no longer hidden, no longer distant. It floated before the eclipse and spoke directly to Reyna, to Calren, to every human alive. "You chose the hard path. You chose it again and again, and that is why you live." Then the being faded into light, and was gone. Reyna collapsed to her knees, not from pain but from relief. Calren placed a hand on her shoulder. "We did it," he said softly. "We finally did it." Back on Earth, people cheered. Children danced in the streets. The stars were silent again, but not empty. They were watching still. But now, they watched with respect. A monument was built in Vega Prime's orbit, carved from pieces of the first Titan, shining like a sword pointed toward the stars. Its base held a message in every known language: we remember, we survive, we protect. Reyna visited it often. She never stopped leading, but she never stopped mourning either. She lost friends, comrades, entire worlds. But she knew none of it was in vain. Calren returned to his people, not as a soldier, but as a bridge between worlds. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a name carried across the galaxy like a legend, a symbol of resistance, of mercy, of fire and hope. The war had ended, but humanity's story had just begun. Because now, the stars knew Earth, and they would never forget.